Good evening, Eric. How are you doing today?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you doing today?
How are you?
Doing well. So, we're going to go over a little bit of this interview process I said before, offline, about the Mexican American culture, okay? So,
Sure.
I want to ask you some questions, stuff like that. Answer best to your abilities. If you feel like you do not want to answer the question at this time, it's all up to you. But at the same time, I'm also going to ask you about a little bit about personal background, stuff like that, okay? And at the
Sure.
end, And then at the end, if you have any questions or information you want to add in as an alibi, you're more than welcome to. We'll have a little
Yeah.
section for that, okay? So are
That
you
sounds good.
okay? So first off, can you give us a little bit about your background and why you'd be a good candidate for this Mexican American culture, okay?
Sure. My name is Eric Fuerte. I am first generation Mexican American. My family comes from a town or a city in near Mexico City called Michoacan. So I grew up in the Mexican culture, and obviously that's all I know.
Okay. So big thing is for being a first generation Mexican American, what was some of the hurdles or some views that you had dealing with America right off the bat? Like,
I guess the biggest thing was probably um, I guess the culture tendencies and obviously the language barrier. In my household, they only spoke Spanish, so um, it was trying to learn English and try to get into the whole school and figure all that good stuff out that probably comes naturally to most American kids.
so, so the so it's pretty so a big hurdle was the language barrier was primarily speaking Spanish because of what you were raised with and just learning the school system.
Yeah, I mean, like with the Mexican culture, you know, they didn't accustom to having more or less like going to preschool or going to your traditional school. You would have like a babysitter, but you wouldn't have more or less like your traditional how Americans take their children to daycare and then they pick them up from work, type of deal. That wasn't the case for me, type of deal.
Okay, and then with that, another question is when you were looking back at it now, did the American culture influence your household a lot, or not really? Given how your parents were raised in Mexico with their culture.
I mean, I guess the more I got older and understood more of how things worked, I guess the culture started to kind of intertwine. But in the beginning, obviously, I just went off what my parents taught me.
Okay, so it intertwined when you got older, but of course, being a young child, you learn majority of the culture from your parents.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Okay, so when it comes down to the culture, was there any type of culture shock when, like, did you have a chance to visit family back in Mexico? Anything like that? If so, was there any type of culture shock with it, or not really? And
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, elaborate on your answer, please.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, um, over there they don't have your general plumbing. They don't have hot water. I mean, now they do, but back in the day when I was younger, they didn't have like general hot water unless you live closer to the city. I mean, things we take for granted here, you don't have over there. Like just air conditioning or heating or simple plumbing. Um, it's just a poor city. You're poor over there. So it's definitely a big difference compared to here.
So the standard of living is a big difference when it comes down to basic necessities that all Americans
Yeah,
find
like
easily.
yeah, exactly. You go to a gas station, you got a toilet, you can flush. Over there, they don't flush because they don't have the normal plumbing. I mean, nowadays it's catching up, but
Okay.
back when I would go as a child, it was different.
Yeah. What year was that when you were a child? Around what approximately what time frame?
But when I was like 5, so that was like 1999, 2000,
Okay.
and then I went again when I was like 15, so 10 years later. So
Okay.
around that.
Okay. So literally a short, like within a couple of decades, is starting to catch up, so to speak.
Well, yeah, in the smaller, like I said, in the smaller like country, farm areas, I guess you could say, yeah.
Okay.
But back in that time, I mean, you didn't have heated water or anything like that.
Okay.
Like for a shower, you would have to like warm up water to have a warm shower type of deal.
I got you. And then, which would bring up to more of a question: did you find any? So this question is going to be more or less about how the community act when it came down to first generation Mexican American and stuff like that. So,
Sure,
like, if you don't feel comfortable with the question, you're more than happy to say I do not want to answer it, and we'll leave it as that. Out of,
sure.
out of respect for you.
No worries.
So when it came down to the community growing up, or even now, did you see some type of bias, so to speak, to you and your family, or just like how did the community or like the local town of DeKalb, Illinois, Iowa, stuff like that look at you guys to your opinion?
So, like, are we talking like when I was a child
Uh, like
or like now?
like child now, whatever you want to use. Like
Uh,
overall, what you have seen in your life when it came down to the community, good, bad, and the
so,
ugly.
like, yeah. I guess as a kid, I didn't really pay attention to it. There was a decent population of Spanish speaking, or immigrant or first generation Mexican Americans. Um, what's it called? Like it was normal to me because it was around. There was kids that I did the Spanish speaking class, for a while, and then I got thrown into regular classes. So I didn't really see a hatred or a negative stance towards Mexican Americans, I guess. Well, now that we got older, I mean, there's a little bit of a difference. Being in a mixed relationship, you can definitely tell sometimes older generations don't really like that. And then living here in Iowa, in the smaller towns, they don't really see a lot of colored people. You know what I mean? So like you see the smaller country folk, maybe they've seen maybe one or two brown people, I guess. So um, it's definitely an adjustment. You try to not think about it, but it's there. People can. I mean, you can tell.
So pretty much it's just the older generation set in their ways, and it's going to take time, more or less. And then the other one's
Especially,
just,
yeah,
and then the
yeah,
other,
especially in the smaller, um, less educated or more like just smaller towns with like 200, 300 people.
okay,
Sometimes I would have to travel for work, for my job to those towns, and you could definitely tell they haven't seen a colored person before.
oh,
So
okay,
yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah,
okay, okay. So I hear you on that one. Just older generation, and then more or less not used to what other people are accustomed to, like a melting pot, like the city and stuff like that.
exactly. DeKalb was different. I mean, like I said, we had every color, every ethnicity. I mean, um, it wasn't bad there. I didn't notice it as much as like I said, out here in the smaller areas and stuff.
Okay. So now, since that was a little bit of the bad side, what about some of the positive looks?
Positive looks, just the overall.
Yeah, overall, from a child to growing up to your age now,
I guess
what are
I
some
guess
positive?
the positives is just being bilingual, but having that advantage, when um, especially being in the medical field or just in general, sometimes people don't know how to speak English. I'm there to help them out. Um, Same thing in the medical field. I can sit down one to one with the person and explain to them, what's going on. This is how it's going to work, this and that, and they enjoy the face-to-face interaction over, telehealth or something like that. That's a positive, and like I said, all the teachers and everybody just did a great job helping me, develop into the person I am.
Oh, that's good. So it definitely helps out being more personal with people that are not that Spanish is definitely their first language, and it also kind of gives you a leg up when it comes to being bilingual and everything with jobs and opportunities, more or less with that.
Exactly. Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, that's positive. I mean, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So with that being said, we're gonna wrap this up because I told you 5 minutes and we're pushing close to 15. And I don't want to take any more of your time.
You're fine.
Is there anything you want to say that you didn't said before in this interview, or anything else you want to elaborate on?
Not really. I mean, no, not unless you have other questions for me. I think we covered the topics pretty decent.
Okay. Yep. I have no other questions. Thank you, Eric, for giving me a moment of your time to talk about the Mexican American culture. It's like a little bit of an overview. This we definitely did not go extremely in depth because we could be here all day talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you got nothing else, thank you for your time and have a good evening.
You too. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.